why is there no top quality Australian product readily available for everybody? And why isn't it in every bloody store so that people who need it and want it can get it?
Exactly.
And that was the catalyst. That was the ignition that said, right, let's do this. That was the ignition that said, right, let's do this.
G'day mates. Welcome back to another episode of the FIVE8 TAKE, Australia's podcast. Today we have a special guest by the name of Matt Blackham. He is the owner and founder of Ancestral Nutrition. Ancestral is a small Australia-owned and operated company with a very big mission: help their customer live the best lives. This includes increasing your vitality, strength, resilience, and happiness through a foundational ingredient, which is beef liver. You've all heard me ramble on about a meat-based diet. This is why I was extremely excited to have Matt on and to understand a bit more about organ eating and how our ancestors used to enable this diet to live healthy lives. You see pictures of beaches back in the day, which I brought up in this episode. Everyone looked fit. You see beaches today, it's just obese people a lot of the times. Now, why is this? Diet. It all comes down with what we're intaking into our bodies. In this episode, you will begin to have a better understanding of his past, his family, his belief in where the business is headed, why beef liver is good for you, advice for small business owners, and much, much more. I will also take the time here to say that you can click the link below, head over to ancestralnutrition.com.au and use the discount code DIOGO10, DIOGO, the number 10, and get yourself some discounts off your purchase. We'll also be stocking possibly 2 of their major items in our shop, the FIVE8TAKE.shop. So if you go over there in future, we will have it there. But for now, just head over to ancestralnutrition.com.au. You can also purchase these shirts, brand new drop on the FIVE8TAKE.shop. And whilst we're here, this episode is brought to you by loanoptions.ai, our brothers in arm. Loan Option is the first artificial marketplace for personal, business, and car loans. Their AI tool plugs into all the major lenders across Australia. The difference is that they don't just palm you off, they'll assist you all the way through to get the loan you'd like, whether it's car loans, personal loans, business loans, equipment loans, caravan loans, motorcycle loans, marine loans, or you want to get yourself a boob job. You can do that too. You just go onto their platform, loanoptions.ai/FIVE8. And it's a fantastic team. They've supported us for a long time, so definitely we support them. Loanoptions.ai. Without further ado, let's get into this episode.
You're listening to the FIVE8 TAKE, Australia's podcast. Eat liver, gain knowledge, and always tan your balls.
We're sort of just opening up or starting our new manufacturing facility. So as you can imagine, there's a whole heap of little things that can go for you and against you when you're doing stuff like that. So teeing all that up and getting everything to run smoothly, just it's a bit of fun. But yeah, we're getting there. With lights at the end of the tunnel, so we're just about to press the go button on all that.
Yeah. So, and I want to get into the production, how you started everything, because when I came across the business, I was like, thank God, an Aussie's doing this.
Yeah.
Because I was a little bit with me. So I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Actually, this comp ADCC, which is it's quite a nice competition in grappling. I was thankful enough that I won it that day. It was just my day. when I was doing that, I was on a strict carnivore diet. I've changed from that. I've moved a bit into fruits, honey, and a fat-based meat diet, which is, it's helped me a lot. I did a little vegan stunt for a little while there, but just didn't work for me, mate. Like, I was just sloppy and aspiring. I was just a bit all over the place. And when I switched that diet, it wasn't like it was the Matrix, but it just everything seemed a lot fresh. I was able, in scrambles, to get to positions really quickly, and the clarity just was amazing during rolls. So I just kept going on that, and then I found Paul Saladino, and then I was going back and forth with him regarding Heart and Soil. He's going to be on a podcast soon. It was meant to be last month. He changed and I changed, but he'll be on soon. So when I came across that, I was looking to import his product in. So when I came across yours, I was like, Australian-based beauty. How'd you get started? And like, what was the process of just the creation of not only just the brand, but the sourcing of the product as well?
Yeah, well, it's two stage. So stage one is like, and I suppose it's for everybody, right? It's at what point do you go from not even being aware that a product like beef organs, what it does for you and how good it is for you, through to, right, I want to make this stuff. So step one was obviously becoming, aware of why we needed to do it in the first place. So that came about for me personally because initially my wife was having a few hormonal issues. And so she got a blood test done that showed that she had a mutation in a MTHFR gene, which, it's nothing serious as such, but what it is, it means that your body has a diminished ability to use its B vitamins properly. And so you can have a lot of, B vitamins, available in your blood, but how your body then goes about using them is a different story. And so for my wife, that would have been, maybe from what I understand, about a 25 to 30% reduction in capacity. Mm-hmm. But the flow-on effect for her was that the processes that downstream of that got interrupted related to hormones. And so that's where, once they sort of went out of balance, and you then have mood swings and other issues related to that sort of stuff. So that was sort of the initial, why we're even looking at that. And from that point, it didn't really kind of wake me up to the whole process. It took another, 6 to 12 months after that before I ended up getting the kids tested, because I wanted to see if they had the same thing. And as it turns out, not only have the kids got it, I happen to have the same one as my wife. And the version of it that we passed on to the kids is a little bit more aggressive. So their diminished ability to use B vitamins is more like sort of 60% plus. And so, we found that out, especially through my daughter, who at the time should have been about 7 or 8, I think. And she was having real major energy issues. The most notable was when she was playing tennis and she would be blitzing all the boys on the court. And then she'd just get to a point where she'd come over to me and she'd say, "Dad, I've got nothing left. I need to go to bed." And she wouldn't win another point for the rest of the game. And so we started to go, okay, there's something to look at here. So that was kind of the starting point of why we need to look at it. And so
and was that a development, Matt? Like, was this something that your wife was born with and you were born with and you guys found out at a later stage? Or is this an incremental development via diet, or did the doctor say anything regarding that?
So the research that I've done and through the naturopath and the doctor is that it's genetic, so you're born with it. Usually, obviously, that means that one of your parents has got it. From the information that I was given by the doctor at the time, that probably in Australia, about 50% of the population would have the mutation, but whether or not they have any diminished, B vitamin capacity is another story, because obviously, that presents based on the environment and their lifestyle and lots of other things. So, but it's something that you're born with. And in the case of my wife, if she traces back through her teenage years, she probably thinks, oh well, imagine if I had been able to address that earlier, how would my life have been different? So that's probably the way that we've viewed it. But the standard response once you get that, you find out you've got that mutation, is they put you on what's called an activated B vitamin. So they're sort of plant-based, synthetic-based B vitamins, which at the time did the trick. For my wife, instantly the energy changed, and at the same time, really helped to smooth out the hormonal issues she was having. So it was a real game changer for her. And even as soon as recently as the other day, she said, that was a changing point in her life where things started to be able to get better for her. So whilst it may sound a minor thing, and it is in the big scheme of things, it does have in my wife's case, a decent effect. For me, I also found out at the same time that I had the celiac issues. So again, I had the genetic disposition for celiac disease, but I didn't actually have celiac disease. But it did make me aware that if I cut gluten out, how much of a different life I'd have. And that for me, probably the biggest game changer, that the pre and post gluten lifestyle is just poles apart, that clarity, the mental fog lifts and things like that. So that was the real beginning of it. And then the real catalyst for me to go further was I'd read this book, which I've got here because I just wanted to sort of reference it as being a real game changer for me, which is, it's called Eating Ourselves Sick.
Okay.
And what that book is it's a kind of an intro guide into where the whole food system and the pharmaceutical system has just gone wrong. And it then just delves into all the issues. And for me, that was the awakening moment for me when it comes to how that big pharma food complex system works. Yeah. And then everything that comes downstream it. So obviously, all the other topics that we could be talking about in relation to corporations, it relates, this is almost at the root cause of it, if you like. It comes back to their kind of hijacking of the food system. And so from there, I started to ask the question, why can't I get what I need from food? Why have I got to go and buy this synthetic plant-based activated B vitamin? It just sounded crazy. And I asked doctors, I asked a naturopath, nobody could give me an answer. And for me, it wasn't until one of my business partners introduced me to Paul Saladino's podcast early on. Yeah. And the very first podcast that I listened to was him talking about the MTHFR gene mutation, because he has the same mutation. And he said, it's easy. All it is, it's a riboflavin deficiency, and you get all of that naturally from egg yolks and beef liver. And that was it. That was my switch. I went, right, I'm all in on the carnivore side of things, and I'll also, get into the liver. So I started that journey of looking for liver in Australia. And, based in Byron Bay at the time, I checked every shop within 50 kilometres of where I lived. Not only did people not stock it, they'd never heard of it, thought it was the craziest thing in the world that you would be even eating it. And so I ended up having to buy another branded product that came in from South America. Mm-hmm. And, that was my introduction to organs. And, fast forward sort of 6 to 12 months after that, I was sitting around with my business partners. We were literally sitting in the sun, and we went, why is there no top quality Australian product readily available for everybody? And why isn't it in every bloody store so that people who need it and want it can get it?
Exactly.
And that was the catalyst. That was the ignition that said, right, let's do this.
And did you eat any organs prior to that? Like in your search? Because I've found that too. Here, a lot of butchers just aren't stocking it. And then they say that you can order it, and then you put an order in to get it, and then you go back the following week and they're like, oh, we just don't have it. So it just seems like it's something that they're saying. So I've had to source particular farm-based butchers to actually get any beef liver from them. I heard there's a regulation actually regarding butchers just selling beef liver in general. But was organ something that you touched base on beforehand, or was it when you found this out you're like, all right, I need to try some organs?
Yeah, no, look, not at all. And I think that one of the biggest messages that we try to portray is, you go back one generation, most of our parents, and I would say all of our grandparents, grew up eating organs. They lived on the farm. They had home-cooked meals. They had good fat. They had heaps of butter, lamb chops, you name it, right? They had it all. The amount of stories that we hear from older people around what they did eat as a kid, they talk about the lamb's fry and the brains and listening to these I'd say people, 60 and above, reminisce about what they and their parents had when they were kids is mind-blowing, because they were eating the way we were meant to be eating. And I'm sure you're aware with some of your research already that, you go back to, the 40s and 50s, obesity wasn't really a thing. I mean, yes, there were obese people, but it's not a thing. All of the chronic disease that we have, it's nowhere near what we have now. In fact, it was rare to have those things. And, the introduction of seed oil and processed foods has slowly deteriorated everybody's health. That chronic disease and a chronic condition is now normal. And the simple idea of just looking back, even 1 or 2 generations for the answer, it's bizarre that it's that simple, but it really is.
It is weird, like the shift that has happened in Western culture. And, we're fed a lot of muscle meat, and we sort of discard of all the organs. Like for me, I'm Brazilian, so chicken hearts is just not natural in our diet. Like that's, if we, and it's all this sharing as well, which is missing at the minute. So when you were sourcing, why Tasmania? Why that beef specifically?
Tassie is definitely, like, it has a reputation for being clean and green. And for us, that meant that, we can rely on it knowing that we're getting a good quality, clean product. If it's coming from mainland, potentially you could have to look further into whether or not, the claims are what they are. But, Tassie effectively has, all grass-fed finished beef, right? The feedlots aren't down there. So there's an element of getting a higher quality meat. You got the clean, fresh air, all those things combined. So that was the reason that we initially, wanted to go to Tassie. And the sealing of the deal was that, one of our part of the processing facilities was down there. So it made sense to tie the two together. So that's our main reason. We wanted to make sure we had the good quality product. And, there's no doubt that the Tassie product is good quality. And so that's what we ran with.
And the processing plant, is that the new one? Is that going to be over there as well? Or is that?
No. So that's the freeze drying we're talking about. So that's the part that happens down in Tassie, and the other part of the facility will be processed. The capsuling part is the part that'll be happening up here. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's needed, man. And like hats off to you for starting it. It's a tough endeavor to start. When did you guys start? Especially, was it during the lockdowns, or was it prior, or when did you guys conceptualize the idea and bring it to market?
It's about 18 months ago. Yeah, we launched during COVID. And it's been going gangbusters. And, I suppose it's easy for a supplement brand or a brand that can be perceived as a supplement, even though it's a food, to do well during a health crisis, because people are looking for something to boost their immune system, boost their health. So perhaps that might have actually been a blessing in disguise that, more people were receptive because they were looking for something for, immune boosting and energy boosting and the like. But no, we, as I said, launched during COVID, and it's been going great. And we think that the biggest reason for our success is that we're really trying to keep it simple. We're not trying to, there's no smokes and mirrors. It's not snake oil. We're just selling a simple food product that in all reality, if we ate like our grandparents did, we don't have a product to sell. It's that simple. What we're selling is the convenience of being able to have that low regular dose of something that gives you the most nutrition you can get from anything in the world, and give you a base for you to then build off. Now, some people still might want to choose to be obviously not vegan, but vegetarian, or limit their meat consumption, but use this as a foundation source of their vitamins and minerals. Or it might be somebody at the other end of the spectrum, full carnivore. So, anywhere in between, this product can help out because it just gives you that baseline nutrition value. And as I said, I truly believe that if we did eat the way that our grandparents did, there's nothing to sell here. It's that simple.
Yeah, because you look at some of those images back in the day of people just at the beach, and they all seem so healthy. And then you look at people at the beach these days; they're just quite obese. Yeah. And it's clear that it's it's got a lot to do with diet. I had Dr. Peter Dingle on. He's Australia's #1 gut health specialist when it comes to speaking. He's one of the biggest speakers, and he continuously goes back to gut health, and he discusses the health industry versus the pharmaceutical industry. That's not really assisting in people's health. Do you feel the same? Do you feel like we've been a bit let down by pharmaceuticals and the diets that's pushed upon people?
Absolutely. I mean, I would go further than that. I wouldn't say it's a letdown. I would say that, through vested interest, we've been actively forced into a cycle of poor nutrition that leads to poor health outcomes, that feeds you into a pharmaceutical system or a medical system that's designed, or if you go to the medical system, it's designed to, prescribe you something that will treat your symptom. You then get into the pharmaceutical system, you take their product that's designed to try and treat that symptom. And at the end of the day, you don't really treat the root cause of the problem. And so you then go back home and you start the process again, and you keep going around in circles, poor nutrition to poor health, poor medical care, into the pharmaceutical system and going around. My view is that, the vested interests of those, big food, big pharma, et cetera, is that that's how they make their money. And there is no reason for that to change. So, you and I sit here and we can quite clearly see what's happening. And there are many others around the world, and the likes of Paul Saladino and Sean Baker. And, there's a particular blog that I follow. I don't know who's behind it. It's called The Root Cause MD, who really well articulates this cycle. And it's clear to those who want to see it. And I suppose it's no different to any of those other topics that we, as I said, we could be discussing if we really wanted to, where if you want to see what the truth is, it's there to be seen. But if you're not prepared and you want to just close your eyes and keep living a life where you don't want to address those hard truths, then you can take that option as well. So that's where I firmly believe we're at. I don't believe there's any kind of, it's not a unintentional consequence. I believe we're stuck in this system.
And when it comes to like thiamine and B1 and other vitamin B intakes, when it comes to vitamin D, you're supposed to have moderate fat intake when you're taking those capsules to get the best out of them. Does it come the same when it comes to vitamin B? Are you supposed to take it, with a meal that's high fat base, or can you take it without any meal in the morning, maybe? In the afternoon? What's the best way to intake the beef liver to get the best out of it? Look,
you can eat it on an empty stomach if you like. There's no issue with that. I do sometimes when I'm doing fasting. My thing that I have while I'm fasting is just the organs. Being fat soluble vitamins, then obviously having them with something fatty is also handy because it helps them to be absorbed into the fat, and then the body can use them. So that's always a good thing. As far as like time of day and stuff like that, we always recommend, either take them in the morning or morning and lunch, depending on some people's, predisposition to how they react to foods and things. If they have a full dose at night, it might give them a little bit too much pep, if you know what I mean, before they go to bed. But look, that's sort of the way we look at it is, morning and lunch is probably the way to go. As I said, for us, it's rather than be, take 4 capsules and just, have a high. It's not really about that directly. It's about taking 4 capsules a day over a sustained period so that you're building up that baseline level of nutrition. Or you've got all the raw ingredients for your body to do the things that it needs to do. And then you feed on top of that a really good diet that's, high in, ruminant meat, ruminant fats. To me personally, I'm sort of similar to you. I went through a stage of being a really strict carnivore, but I'm more than happy to have my root vegetables cooked in tallow. It's funny, the kids, they secretly tell you they don't want to eat the tallow, and then you give them chips or something that you homemade cooked in tallow, and I'll tell you what, they're like, oh, they're the best chips I've ever had. How did you make them? And then when you tell them, oh, don't tell me that, just give them to me next time. But for me, it's that simple, and the fruits as well, and the honey and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not super strict when it comes to the carnivore side anymore. And I think it's a good way to really reset the system. But, whole foods is a really good start. I think anything that's not processed is a really good start. I do avoid all the greens. I'm no fan of those. But maybe I had that, inbuilt innate thing from a young age, because I remember my parents or my mum, feeding me like a roast chicken dinner, and I'd be, even at like 10 or 11, right, she would steam green beans to the point that they were, I'd say, almost grey. And, would say, you've got to eat your beans before you go. And I just remember dry reaching at the table. I just did not want to eat those beans. So it's great now. I feel kind of vindicated in my my behaviour back then as a kid.
I think that as well. Sometimes I'm like, maybe as children we were always right about these broccolis and whatnot. Because
what's the saying? Kids and pets never lie.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe there was some truth there. But yeah, it's the change that is I've seen in personally in my body. That's where I come from when I discuss these things. There's still this this repulsion when it comes to some people regarding this particular topic. Whether that's created or not, that's something else. But for example, even raw liver was something that I ate. So I put up a post, just having something that I do normally, just having some raw liver, and the amount of comments and people that just couldn't believe that was baffling to me. And sure, it's not for everyone, but there's still this mentality towards even raw food, organs, and different diets that to me has personally assisted me. There's still that holdback. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because, it's something that's not just confined to food, and especially the organs. I think it's part of the way society operates now, and the way that we intake information, and the way we decide what's acceptable in society. And we've just moved to a point where we've separated ourselves from so many things in life that we probably need to be connected to. Now, whether that means, if you take an animal, for example, back in the day, not only did you have to hunt it, you had to kill it, cut it up, and do all those things. And there was a sacred connection to that I think meant you viewed your food very differently. And, you look at some, I only can see it through documentaries where people, the way that they honor their food is amazing. When you go back and speak to current farmers now, they still honor their animals in exactly the same way. But this, through whether it be social media, whether it be an active campaign on those people we were talking about before to kind of disconnect us from our roots, then the further we get away from that, the further we see things as gross or icky, or why would you do that, or something that helps them form a judgment, pushes them into some virtue signaling kind of behavior. And all of a sudden you've got tribes acting against each other. And all of these things are designed to force wedges between us all. And, the moment you put up a post about eating some liver, you've identified yourself in a particular way as a particular subset of the community. And, they've readily made somebody who's opposite to that in order to come out and give you a whack. And so I believe that, it's one symptom of a much bigger problem that we have as a society. Yes, there's nothing wrong with people being different and having different views, but how do we come together and work together on things? So that's sort of, it's probably a long-winded way to answer it, but I believe it lies back at that level. I think there's this really big disconnection from, our roots as humans to where we are now.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with that. And the vegetarian, I don't knock a lot of diets. I just speak from what's helped me. And the vegan diet it didn't help my body at all. When I look at India, I see their lifespan, I think, is around 46 or 56, and they're a full vegetarian diet. And I compare that with different countries with similar standards of living, but with a more carnivore-based diet, and they live a lot longer. So it's interesting the shift that's been made. And mate, I'm going to hit you with a conspiracy theory, just to get your thoughts on it, especially being in the meat industry and the nutrition industry. There's been discussions for a long time of 2050. There's this thing called Agenda 2050, right? And the thoughts of Agenda 2050 is that meat consumption will almost cease to exist. It will be very, very, very low percentage. And there's a lot that's happening to push that at the minute. So looking at those discussions that people have, what are your thoughts when it comes to the industry itself, the decline of meat consumption? We've had a slight rise in organ discussion in the last 2 years, which has been fantastic. It's given us a great boost. But in terms of meat consumption itself, it's been at a decline, especially in the Western world. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I'm aware of the kind of information that you're talking about and what where they're trying to push. I mean, you've only got to look at those international bodies that are, it's hiding in plain sight, right? So yeah. It's not as if it's a far stretch to say that they want to, cut out meat consumption and do those things.
Yeah.
For me, I, personally think my response is good luck, because at some point, right, whether it's people that are just never going to change, or the people that are going along with the agenda items but unaware of what's really going on, eventually they might, cotton on and change their mind. But the significant health problems caused by not having a meat-based diet or an animal-based diet are getting more and more obvious. And I would just say, with the feedback that we get through our customers and people who interact with us through social media, there's a really common thread, and the best way to put it is an ex-vegan. So
That's me, mate.
on the face of it, right, it might not seem like that there's a lot of people shifting back to the animal-based, and maybe we operate in an echo chamber like everybody else. But there's definitely, I have a feeling, there's a lot of people that are turning away from, the vegan and vegetarian lifestyle because they've experienced the health problems that come with it, and they're shifting back to an animal-based. Once people see the importance of an animal-based diet, that's where I think, and I say good luck, because there'll be an army of people that will never, ever allow that to happen. But in saying that, I think this is where, as a society, maybe as just people in society, we can make a decision. Which way are we going to go with this? Are we going to say, right, I see that they're talking about, I don't want it to happen, but I'm not really going to do anything active about it, versus what can I do actively to try and make a difference? Now, in your case, you've got a podcast, right? You can get out and reach people, and hopefully every day that goes by, there's another person that's aware of what's going on, right? So that's a good thing. So that's something that's acting in a way that's, trying to fight that from happening. Something that I'm doing personally, as an example, with my family, is that there's a collective up here that is pitching in to buy a farm through fractional investment. And the idea is that it's going to be run commercially as a farm. It will run animals, as well as a market garden and some other bits and pieces, where it's providing a food security, if you like, for the owners of the land and for all their friends and family.
I love that.
Now, not everybody's in a position to be able to do something like that. So, for me, I'm very lucky that I can do that. But for me, this is a bit of a pilot program with this one that's happening. And the idea is that, as it's got a professional farmer running it, and it operates professional business, and it's doing the right thing. Now, that's securing a group of people, some land that we're going to produce animals on. Now, contrast that with somebody whose only source of getting animal products is via the supermarket. Okay. You can see a difference in the risk and the way that would happen. So yes, I agree and see the writing on the wall for where some of these international organizations want to take us. But I think we've also, if we can see it, we've got an opportunity to do something and actively do something. Now, this is mine is just one example. You've got the podcast, it's another example, and there are other people out there doing these things. But if we can all as a community do something that is taking a step to stop that from happening or make it harder, then that's how I think we win. That's how I think we turn the tide. That's how we protect ourselves and our families, and that we'll all have access to the things that we think we need. So, as I said, it's so hard it's very easy to just want to whinge and bitch about it. Yeah. And yes, part of that is part of the process of going through all this. But I think that, maybe if, the more of this kind of stuff that happens, the more of these active steps that we take to say no is really good. One of the, obviously the mass formation psychosis has been a topic of late. And I was listening to a podcast, I think it was the Dark Horse podcast, and they were... Great podcast. Yeah, great. It's one of the best. I can't not listen to that podcast. They had an excerpt from the book. I think it was the Spanish version of the book. But anyway, the basis was, well, what do you do? Like, when this mass formation is happening, how do you get in the way? What do you got to do? And their response was, you've just got to say something. So if you're at a barbecue or you're anywhere with somebody and they're parroting this rubbish, then it's up to somebody like us to say no. Even if you just say, no, that's bullshit, and you don't say any more, but you've made it clear to them, I think that's bullshit, then whoever's listening and them will, it's an interaction that says, well, hold on, something's not right there. And maybe there's an opportunity maybe there's an opportunity at that moment to delve further into it. Maybe there's not. Maybe all you need to do is it's call bullshit at that time. And it might take them 3 or 4 months, but they might ruminate on that for a while and then go, I wonder why they said that to me. So, that was I think that was Matthias Desmet's recommendation. Like, what do you do? What's the little thing that you can do, even if the only thing you can do is just call bullshit?
I love that. And I think people need to do that more. People need to say no. People need to, it also gets into understanding yourself, being comfortable in what you've researched, what you know, what your body's telling you, and have the strength to give the opposite point of view. This is something that completely baffles me, especially with this particular topic, is that, for example, there's a guy called Raf Fernandez. He runs Belliachi, he's in a farm now. It's another content creator sort of in this space. We were at a barbecue together, speaking to some other people, and just the discussion of milk. He's like, I have straight fresh milk from a cow. The other people were just so blown away from that. They just couldn't possibly believe that you can survive out of that. There's a guy called that does Raw Experiment, is on Instagram. He just eats raw food, which for me, even myself, he's eating a raw chicken, and I'm like, mate, that's a bit wild. Like,
that's hardcore.
My mind can't comprehend that. Like, my mind just sees salmonella when he's eating it. But he's done this experiment for nearly 200 days now, where he just eats raw, everything, tongue, whatever it is, he eats it. He hasn't died, which is like, it just clearly shows that there are things that we've been lied to, and there's also does show that clear mass psychosis where we're at a barbecue, a person's telling you a like personal experience that they've had that they continuously do, yet the other mind just rejects it, due to what, indoctrination?
Yeah, I think it's part of it. And, you know, the other thing is this whole thing about, do I want to live a good life or a safe life?
Yeah.
And a good life would be, I'm given that raw milk a crack. I'll do all these things. And whilst a raw chicken might be a little bit hardcore for me, I'll give all that stuff a crack, right? Because I want to have a good life. If you want to have a perfectly safe life, that's where I think, you know, you go down that track of thinking you're going to die by having raw milk or not take any risks and then fall into line. Now, whether that's part of the formation, whether that's indoctrination, you know, I think it's part of the bigger picture. But our kind of complete adoration for safety is, I think, a big part of the problem, because, you know, there's so many things that aren't safe that we do, that we deem as safe, yet there are things that we deem as unsafe that are completely safe that we won't touch. And there's a real confusion around that. And, you know, going back to what you said, even just at the beginning of that, about understanding yourself, there's, you know, I briefly listened to one of your prior podcasts, and it was around the Christianity and things like that. And for me, I think it's as simple as, where do you seek your approval? Where do you seek your inner peace? Do you seek it externally from somebody else? Is it always a requirement for somebody else to provide that peace, that security, that safety, that recognition of being a good person? Does that come externally, or do you find that internally? Now, it doesn't matter what religion. It doesn't matter whether you're not religious at all, whether it's all to do with spirituality and all these other things. The common thread for all of that, for me, for all of those kind of the spiritual side of life, encompassing all of those things, including religion, etc., is the turning inward for your own kind of peace. And from there outwards, you find out who you are. And from there, you express yourself as the person you want to be, which I think is the person that wants to have the good life.
Yeah.
Is less concerned about safety, is less concerned about what others think. And hence you end up on a path doing things that kind of other people think you're crazy for doing, which I've heard that many times in my life. So, you know, this is where it all gets wrapped up together, and it's not, you know, it's multifaceted. It's not one issue, but you start piling on all the issues that we've been talking through across this conversation.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if you're on the wrong side of the ledger, the way we view it, for every one of those items, you can imagine how highly strung somebody would be. And it's hard to break that.
Just on that point, do you subscribe to any philosophy? Is there, or you're a religious person? Is there philosophers that you appreciate, that you've gotten a lot out of, just in terms of philosophy itself?
Yeah. Look, for me, it's a journey that probably only started in the last 5 years. So it's not as if it's a lifelong thing. You know, I'm officially Catholic and was baptized and all those things, but I never went to church, and I never really did anything religious. And, you know, was that typical, probably, you know, Aussie that maybe our grandparents were, you know, more religious and Catholic, and they passed down the official ceremonies to us, but we never really led a life of any spirituality, right? That's probably most Aussies, I reckon. And also for me, was my life up until maybe 5 or 6 years ago. For me, look, I don't ascribe to, you know, a direct religion as such. The way that I look at it is, it's hard to put into words sometimes, but is around how my favorite book is a book called The Mustard Seed. I don't know if you've heard that one.
I haven't read it.
Okay. So it's referred to as the Gospel of Thomas, which is the part of the texts that were found in 1945 in Egypt that supposedly have, you know, sayings of Jesus, right? So that's the basis of this book. And it's written by an Indian mystic, and it's his interpretation of those things, of those sayings. And he kind of articulates those sayings into a way that crosses all religions as well as no religions. And it's about that journey inwards to yourself and to spirituality. And through that book and a few other things that I've read, it's not, for me, I don't feel a direct affinity with a religion. if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a spiritual thing, and it's very hard to describe. I probably never really tried to say it out loud, so it may sound a bit wishy-washy, but definitely, I think all of the religions and the spiritual practice is founded in the same source, is what I believe, and that those teachings are absolutely attempted to be buried and covered up, and that I think there's a lot to be learned from all of the religions and all of the ancient practices. I've just finished reading a book called The Kabbalion. Have you?
Yes.
Heard of that one?
Yeah.
That's a really amazing little read. It's only a thin little book, but a heck of a read. So that kind of way of thinking is where I'm at the moment. And, if it teaches, no matter which way you go, now it could be a more strict Christian viewpoint or any of the other religions. I think it's how it's your way of interpreting that message, and then what do you do as a result of it? Because clearly, like the Catholic Church, everybody's quite aware of the issues of the Catholic Church and how they, tried to put the source of your kind of happiness in their hands, and so therefore you could never take it into your own hands, right? But the true version of a Christianity would be that it is inside your own hands and your own heart, and for you to figure it out. So if whatever you do under any of those kind of teachings is to go inwards, to be really confident in yourself, so that you're unwavering to other people's kind of judgment, and from there you come out expressing yourself, however you do that, humanity would change overnight if everybody did that. It would solve everything. It's not going to happen, but that's the way that I think it's that simple if we all viewed life in that manner.
Yeah. And I agree. Matt, what were you doing before Ancestral Nutrition? Were you in the nutrition space? How did you? I know you discussed how you stumbled upon it and developed it, but what were you doing before?
So I'm actually an accountant, a chartered accountant. So quite different to this. I've been doing that for a while, and prior to that, I was in the police, in New South Wales Police. So
Gotcha.
It's actually where I met my wife. So we're both police officers down in Sydney, and we left when our first son was born.
She was a police officer as well?
Yeah.
Yep,
so
gotcha.
we met working on the truck.
Amazing.
I remember going to a domestic violence job, me and her, and the first time we met. So vivid memory. So that's sort of, about 20 years ago now. So
amazing.
Yeah. So, and look, as far as life experiences go, it's taught me a lot. Even I was only in the job for 3 or 4 years. My wife was a little bit longer. And obviously the police are copping a bit of a rap at the moment with the way things are going, and rightly so. I think because we're in this really weird position where people just follow orders. And look, my time in the police was so enjoyable. I was young at the time, I'm 19 when I came out of the academy, but great fun, great life experiences. Could I do it now? Not a chance in hell.
Mm.
And so then did the retraining and been an accountant officially for a number of years, and which has given me, again, lots of life skills. I've seen lots of businesses, and I've seen behind the curtains of a lot of different businesses. And through my current business partners here, we've got a lot of experience in health space, and together as a team, we're bringing together different skill sets that really help us achieve things that you could never do on your own.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can see the business acromens coming through when I look at the site, when I look at how smooth everything is. You can see that, and officers are getting a bit of a rap at the moment. Like at the academy, we've got detectives that we train with in our. We got our normal classes, and then we got these other classes which are more comp-based classes, and they're in there, amazing guys, and they've said the same thing. There's also a division that's occurred within the force, and I've stopped blaming anyone for much. To me, I've always said it's all about each individual and each internal item that they can assess of themselves to bring out into the world. It's a bit of a Jordan Peterson philosophy of clean your room and then go and try and clean the world, rather than doing it the opposite way around. And building community is another big thing. So that farm that you're building out there, that vision, I feel that's one incredibly important, and I've pushed that message a lot to build that community. We, anyone that listens to the podcast can go to Gracie at Tarman and train for free. But one of those, having that sanctuary that people can go to, feel safe, feel that they will get given honest information, and they'll meet new people, is an amazing thing. And yeah, I commend you for that. And, trying to expand things community based. Do you guys do events at Ancestral Nutrition?
We were going to. That was all on the cards, and then COVID threw the spanner in the works. So, and firstly, thank you for the words you just said about the business. That's very much appreciated. We had plans to do some stuff in WA. We really were going to hit the huskings, as they say, and then borders closed, and so it's kind of put a stifling on all of that, and we just never kicked off some of those. But it's definitely on our radar. We've got the skill set for presentations, and it's something that we absolutely want and are planning to do. But it's a case of working out when, where, how, what, and all those sort of things. So watch this space. I would expect and hope that we'll be actively participating. But as you were just saying, community is the most important thing. Community is the way that I think we overcome all of the shenanigans. Everybody has said this a million times. It's not my thoughts, but social media is designed to make you feel like you got a lot of friends, but you got nobody. And so you're really just isolated to become an individual person seeking that external kind of satisfaction, external approval. Whereas the moment you get a community together, all of those things break down, all of those narratives fall apart, and people operate, from that kindness. And so you're right. Community is the only way for us to save ourselves, if you like.
And Matt, where can people go to you're across how many stores in New South Wales? Around 45 or something, is that right?
Yeah, look, at last count, I haven't looked at it recently, but yeah, look, we are definitely well covered across the eastern seaboard. We have just picked up a distributor that's going to help us further with South Australia, Northern Territory, and WA. So that's really exciting for us, because actually we have a lot of WA customers, which is fantastic. So there's a big drive for organs over there. So hopefully we'll be in a lot more stores in those places shortly. But as far as where to go and things like that, we've got on our little whiteboard of planning a little community that we want to build, because the information that people have got is just so confusing. So to be able to try and just bring things together, keep it simple. One of the things that we are looking to develop, we haven't kicked it off yet, is something as simple as an app for when you go shopping that identifies things full of seed oil that you don't know about. So look, it's nothing too fancy, but you look at any of those fitness apps where you can log your food, right?
Yeah.
We want it to be as simple as a traffic light system that they can look up the food. So they go there, and if they don't understand why that packet of potato chips is is a red light, we'll tell them why. But the concept of just being able to go to the shops and have a traffic light system. Yes, you can have this one as much as you like. Be careful with that one. Don't overdo it. Or these are a red light. No, is something we want to build as part of our little community basis, so that we can help spread that message, and people can, make little improvements. Because if we cut out the seed oil, we cut out the processed foods, we get rid of, that rubbish sugar, replace that with nutrient dense food. So replace empty calories with nutrient full calories. That's a pretty significant shift that we think we can make in the world. And, hopefully we'll get this little app developed as a little traffic light system, so that people because that's the most common question we get is, can I have this? Can I have that? Why can't I have this? And so that would be a really simple way for us to do that. So watch this space on something like that.
Mate, I love that, because do you think those 5-star things are bullshit, or what's your thoughts on them? Is that the thoughts behind creating it all, or what do you reckon?
Look, for me, the 5-star or the star rating system is no different to the heart tick. It's no different to organic certification. It's a body that collects money to do something, and all those sort of things. And I think with the star rating, it might be slightly different because it's more about you get your scoring and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, if you ascribe to the viewpoint that we do for food and nutrition, then that star system is inverted. It's the wrong way around. And so, it's completely driven by vested interest, clearly. And so therefore, you're never going to get right information. To be able to pull off a sugary breakfast cereal and say that when you pour milk on it, it gets 5 stars.
Yeah, it blows my mind, mate. You just said something that's quite big. Organic certification is bullshit. Elaborate.
No, it's probably not to say that it's bullshit. That's probably not the right way to put it. What it is that, obviously organic is super important. We know, like, we're sourcing organic stuff. That's a non-negotiable for us. But as far as having the tick on the bottle, it's that part of it that I think is the bit that maybe that part's the bit you could call a bit of bullshit, because you're paying licensing fees to put a tick on your label and say something, right? Now, the reason I say that is because I can give you some type of deep fried product that is organic. It's not healthy. It doesn't mean anything, right? So a certification in its own right, to me, doesn't necessarily tell the full story. And so therefore, if you can pay to get something that the consumer doesn't understand, right? They see this certified organic deep fried something or other. But there's a connotation that there's something healthy about it because it's certified organic. Now, maybe it's not a deep fried product. Maybe it's something else that's still highly processed but meets the definition or certification for organic. I think there's a confusion there. So a customer goes, well, I'm fine to have that. It's organic. When if it's highly inflammatory food, I don't care if it's organic or not. So that's my reasoning for the comment that I made around the certification side of some of those things.
Gotcha. And something that I've noticed, Matt, is that you've got your Primal Energy, which is your 100% beef liver. And you've got also a female product, but you've taken out some of the beef liver and you've added a bit of heart, I believe. Well, what's the decision behind that?
So the reason that this is the one you're talking about there. So that's the women's one. So it's the nice little white label one there. Yep. So that one is 70% liver and then 15% kidney and heart. Yep. So the reason that we've formulated in that manner is because obviously liver is the king, but there's a few extra things that you get in the heart and the kidney, selenium, CoQ10, etc., that are important. And so we've found that, from the female perspective, rather than buying multiple products and combining and doing that sort of stuff, their preference is for a product that has it already pre-formulated, if you like. So that's the easiest way to explain it. So yeah, you're right. The multi has the same organs in them, but it's just the ratio of what they're put in together in order to make it as simple as possible. So that, if you're a busy person and all those sort of things, you just want to be able to, I just need the one that's right and I just want to take it. That's the one. Whereas what we've found is with the guys like to mix and match and invent their own stuff. So they're more than willing to buy 20 different products from, all sorts of different brands. Like we get photos, I get them from my mates, right? They send me their stack, right? And I think that's more of a guy thing, right? They've got their supplement stack. It could have zincs in it and what have you, right? So it's more around that thinking, because the guys, as I said, they like to kind of put their creative touch to what they're doing with themselves. Whereas with the women, we're saying, no, this is the optimum one. If you just choose one, this is the one that's best suited. It's going to give you most bang for your buck, and that's the way we've arranged it.
And when it comes to, so my missus at the minute is pregnant. So she's due in September.
Congratulations.
Thank you, mate.
Is it your first or not?
This is my first. So
nice.
It's I'm excited, super excited. When it comes to female and pregnancy and Even before pregnancy, irregularities in periods, vitamin B has been an amazing source to assist in that. But when it comes to pregnancy and pregnant women, can they take these supplements?
Absolutely. And one of our sort of leading wholesale customers is actually a fertility specialist.
Right.
Basically the thing with, liver in particular, okay, so it's not just the B vitamins, but in particular vitamin A is a really important precursor to a lot of the sex hormones and hormones in the body. Mm. So we have quite a lot of testimonials, both officially and anecdotally, that come through friends and other people, that for women that are taking the organs, that they go from having irregular cycles and then irregular cycles, mood swings, pain, cramps, etc., through to regular cycles, normal bleeding, those sort of things, and also a more level hormonal response. Mm-hmm. And we find that is a really common thing that we're getting at the moment. Now, the reason I say that and then leading into pregnancy is because if we look at those raw ingredients, those vitamins and minerals that allow the body to do the things that it needs to do, then there's no more important time in a woman's life than obviously as they're getting ready to menstruate because the body's getting ready to get pregnant, or if they're pregnant and, giving nutrition to their baby. So absolutely. Whilst we always say that women should check with their medical specialists only on the basis that if there's something that is unique to them that we can never know about, right? So there's something for them that might make things a little bit different. And so always check with them first. But if there's no issues there, then absolutely, the organs are critical and, help in the process as opposed to hinder.
Love that. I'm going to load my missus up with it. No, she was a vegetarian, and I've gotten her to. We used to go to dinner, and we'd order like it's just normal meals, and I'd grab all her meat, and she'd just eat all the vegetables. But I took her to a Brazilian restaurant once, and it's all you can eat. So I think that's changed her mind. So, and she's now all about the organs, which I've been recommending throughout the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community as well. I've been pushing it where I can. Everyone is pretty much knows this is my diet field that I push a lot. So I commend you for the business. Is there anything that's coming up that you want them to know about after the factory? What happens then? Will there be more distribution? What does that mean for the business itself?
Yeah, look, as far as things coming up, I think it's we do have some feelers out to get one more additional product. I can't really say what it is just yet because it's a bit early, but we are.
Give us the scoop, Matt. Give us a scoop. Give us a little hint, maybe.
What can I say? It might be related to bones, put it that way.
Okay.
But look, hoping to get another product. We're trying to. One of the biggest issues at the moment, it's COVID related, is that a lot of the processing facilities haven't got the manpower to get organs, as in the smaller organs. Mm. And so, getting hold of certain things has been more difficult. So we've had this in the works for a little while, and we're edging closer. So I would hope that in the next sort of few months we might be able to announce that more officially. But so there is something in the works, hopefully sooner rather than later. But there's so many supply constraints at the moment that some of that's out of our hands. But so that's probably that's your little scoop. But what was the other question? It was
there, and so that one that's coming up, the plant. So that's the future item that's coming up. The production, how the plant assists on that end of things, and just to add on as we finish off for business individuals, we do have a lot of people that listen that have either look to start businesses or have created small communities during this time, and just some advice for them as well to finish off. That would be fantastic, mate.
So I'll throw my accounting hat on there for you. My advice is that it's all about empowerment. I can tell you from my years of experience that the biggest impediment to people looking to start their own thing, so they can have the best idea, the best people around them. Everything's ready to go. But it's their literacy around how business operates that gets in the way. And it's not their fault, because I think it's an active thing that's being taken away from kids' education, which is how we operate in the business community. Simple things like structure. What does it mean? Taxes and GST, how, what, why, when. When you're talking to the bank, what are the things you've got to say? How do you get the finance? All those things, right? They're all packaged up that are the kind of the financial literacy, if you like, of being able to operate a business successfully. And that could be the make or break with whether this fledgling idea, no matter how good it is, happens or not. So for me, it's all around just that little bit of education for themselves to fully empower themselves, so that there's no roadblocks when it comes to these things. Because if you get all those ducks in a row when it comes to, as I said, structure and setup and taxes and all those things all tightly bound, then everything else is easy, right? You can just leverage off it. Every time you go to do something you haven't got that sorted, it becomes a roadblock. So, if there's people within the communities that that have that skill set, leverage it big time. Like, really make sure you know that back to front. And when you do, it's very empowering. And any business owners that I see that take that step to empower themselves in that area are dramatically more successful. So that'd be my little, recommendation that really makes a huge difference.
I love that and appreciate that. Thank you for it. And lastly, you can go to Ancestral. Can you? Actually, we don't currently have it in our store. So when you go to Ancestral Nutrition, go Diogo 10. I think you get a discount there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we can hopefully.
You can throw a little link in the bottom, perhaps. Yeah.
Everything will be in the description, and all details of the product, of the business, of all your socials will be there too. And maybe we'll get it in stock within the store in future. But Matt, thank you so much, mate. It's been, like a breadth of knowledge, especially in this space. So thank you so much for your time. Hopefully have you in studio when you're in Sydney in future, but really appreciate the time, mate.
Thank you for having me. And the one little thing that I can do is just spread the knowledge that I've gained over these years over the different fields, and that helps us in this community to take the little steps that protect us. Then that's the little bit that I can do.
Love that. Thank you, mate. Appreciate you.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.